Hey there, everyone. Well, today I am 27 years old. Yep, 27 times around the sun. Honestly, it's pretty awesome. It's always worth celebrating the fact that you not only survived another year, but thrived another year. Because at the end of the day, it's all in the mind. And you could either be negative and see all the bad in life, or you could be positive and see all the good in life. And I choose to be positive. So, with that all in mind, how did my birthday go? Well, I'll tell you. It went great. So, in the morning, I immediately took a shower because I hadn't taken one in like 2 days and I was feeling really grimy and gross. So, I took a nice shower. I felt really good afterwards. And hold on, camera was at an angle, now it's a little better. Moving along. When I was done, my middle sister was talking with my mom in the den, and I said hello to them. My sister said, "All right, time to get dressed." And I was like, "All right, here we go." So I went in, got dressed, put on the clothes I'm wearing right now, combed my hair, put on some moisture cream on my face, and I was ready to go. So I went out. I said hello to my middle sister, hugged her, said I loved her, and my youngest sister was up, and I said hello to her as well as my mom as well. Said I love you to everybody. Now, after saying hello and saying I can't wait to spend the day with you guys, my mom said that we got tickets that were scheduled for around 3 o'clock, but she didn't know where her phone went, and so she decided to go looking for it. I decided to help her while my two sisters were chatting. And we were having trouble finding it because we thought originally we were going to have all the time in the world to chill before leaving. But because my mom couldn't find her phone, it meant that we felt like we had to be on the skits on the fridge to look for the phone so she could contact us in case she needed help with anything when we left. Eventually, my middle sister did find the phone, and it was in my mom's purse the whole time. She said she dug in there to try to find it and find it, but clearly my mom didn't really look too hard for it and just assumed it wasn't in there. So, yeah, she was able to find it, and yippee, now we could go. So we left in my middle sister's car, and we drove off to the aquarium. On our ride, we really enjoyed each other's company. We were talking about various different things, like our opinions on the show Pluribus, and I told my middle sister that I showed our mom first episode, and then my mom described her opinion on the show, which was that she thought the concept was interesting. At first, she thought it was kind of cheesy and weird at first, but then as the first episode progressed, it got more and more interesting as it went along, which sounds sensible. Personally, when I first watched it, I thought it was kind of boring and slow at first, but then as it progressed and I saw what the creator of the series was doing, it made me really engaged with where I was expecting the series to go and where it ends up going. Really cool. So yeah, we were talked about many other things, and eventually we arrived at the aquarium. Parked in the spot. I made sure to take a picture of where we parked, and we walked on our way to the front entrance. When we arrived there, we came across a big, ginormous aquarium of different fish in what looked to be a coral reef location, with all manner of different fish just swimming along in their natural, well, not natural, but man-made, made to look natural habitat. And we were really enjoying the sight. We were taking in the visuals, and it was really cool. But then I needed to use the restroom, so I used the restroom. When I was done, noticed my family was missing, so I decided to call my mom. She said she was off in a larger aquarium area, and I found them. And yeah, so we found these ginormous fish. They looked like what pigs would look like if they had fins. They were really big, and they were just swimming around, and they looked really imposing, and they had these big old eyes. It was crazy. And it's like some were swimming in the same circle over and over again. Others were in corners, just staring at the corner for some reason. It was really weird. And eventually, yeah, we decided to just move along. And as we were moving along, we went to various different locations. We went from seeing lobsters chilling out, and we saw giant fat starfish that were really puffy looking. Kind of reminded me of Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. And then we eventually came across a sea lion who looked very playful and friendly and fun. It was just a really adorable experience. And he was a big guy too. He looked like as tall as I am, but looked very fun and friendly for sure. And eventually we arrived outside where you were allowed to pet any sea creatures, and there were little pools where there were different tiny little sharks and manta rays that you could, pet. Of course, I pet the sharks. They had a really kind of a smooth feel to them. The manta rays were really slimy. And eventually we saw this giant pool, and apparently in the giant pool they had the largest creature that they contained there, which was a 400-pound manta ray. And it was really huge, but the depressing part was that the manta ray was way off in the distance, the other corner, not directly under us, but further away in the pool area. Of course, there was a little, rail built so we wouldn't, fall in. And as we were looking, there was like a guy who came up to us, and he was like in a wheelchair. He was a employee of the establishment, and he showed us these little pods and said they were shark eggs, and that they were recently laid, they were fresh, but they were unfertilized eggs, so we didn't have to worry about them hatching into baby sharks. And he even mentioned that, what do you get when a shark is born? You get a baby shark, baby shark. And yeah, a little thing like that, because that was an extremely popular song. And for whatever reason, moms all over the world loved that song. I remember when it first came out, and I was at a friend's house, and for whatever reason, like the friend's mom wouldn't stop singing that song. I'm not exactly sure why. I guess it just has that sort of wholesome energy. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But anywho, moving along. Yeah, and he told us all about these different sharks and what they did and how they lived, and it was pretty interesting because there was some zebra sharks in there. Eventually we were done with that area. We said goodbye to the man, and my sister and I, my youngest sister and I, got these pamphlets which had these little blank areas which suggested to get your pamphlet stamped in the area you were exploring, so you could prove that you traveled in every location in the aquarium. So that was really cool. I really liked that. Not only was it a way of keeping track of where you visited, but also it was just really satisfying stamping them on the pamphlet page, and then seeing the stamp was cool because it was like a three-dimensional, thick, globby looking stamp, and I liked that a lot. So eventually we went off to a new location, which we found were these things called moon jellyfish, which there was a lady there who was telling my sister, my mom, and my other sister about it. I used to use restroom, and then I eventually found them again, where we hung around these fish and we pet them, and they were really interesting. They had the feeling of a slimy gummy bear, if that makes any sense, a really thick, hardy, slimy gummy bear. It was a really unusual experience for sure. Now, we were told that apparently in captivity, the aquarium had a sea turtle that they called pork chop. And they called the sea turtle pork chop because one of the sea turtle's fins was caught in a net and sadly was so badly damaged that it had to get amputated. And so now the turtle only has 3 fins instead of the full 4, and it is currently in captivity. So we decided to pay a visit to the turtle, and the cool thing was that the turtle swam up right in front of us on the glass, and the glass was crystal clear, so I was able to take the best picture I could of this turtle creature. And it was really cool because you could see like the iris of the turtle, and like it was like in a high quality like fidelity visual, and it was really cool. I loved it. And then eventually we did go to another location where we saw another shark in this like glass that showed us the bottom of like the pool where we were up on top, and now we were at the bottom looking at this, shark swimming in a circle. And that was nice. And eventually we went upstairs, and in the upstairs area, they had a whole bunch of penguins that were just bobbing around and doing their thing and shooting off like torpedoes everywhere. It was so cool. I really did like that a lot. My mom was a huge fan of the turtles doing their, or sorry, not turtles, penguins doing their thing. It was really cool. Eventually, we came across the same guy who talked about the shark eggs on the wheelchair again, and then we got into this different conversations about who would win a fight: 100 penguins versus one orca. And he asked like Google, and apparently Google stated that the orca whale would win, no contest. And then we decided to ask, okay, well, what about 100 sea lions versus the one orca? And again, orca wins, no contest. And then he said that the orca was part of the dolphin family, which I thought was so interesting because aren't dolphins the most intelligent being in the planet? How come the orca isn't considered more intelligent? Because it's part of the same species, but it's much bigger than a dolphin, and does wouldn't a bigger brain mean more intelligence? And then we decided to do a little bit of research on that with a man. What we found out was that because the orca whale is much bigger than a dolphin, its brain has to use up more energy for storing food and eating, which means it has less time to do more advanced things like advanced communication, although it still can do advanced communication, just all for the means of hunting and eating. Whereas dolphins can be a bit more sociable and have more in-depth conversations, which is really interesting because they're much smaller, their brains are more energy efficient, and it's like a brain to body mass ratio. And then that made me think, what about like a sperm whale? Shouldn't a sperm whale, since it's like a larger animal, like be smarter than an orca whale because it's got a bigger brain? And apparently the body ratio to brain ratio of an orca is 14% to the rest of its body, whereas a sperm whale is only 7% to the rest of its body, meaning that the orca relative to its brain to the mass of its body has a bigger brain, meaning it's a bit more intelligent than a sperm whale, which was extremely interesting. And then apparently if a blue whale and a sperm whale mate, which was another avenue that we explored with the man, they create what's called a monstro whale, which is essentially a much larger whale. So we got into so much depth with this man and these different conversations. It was really in-depth, really fun, really cool, really memorable. I really enjoyed that. Eventually I said goodbye, parted our ways again, and for the last time, by the way. And eventually we stopped by these statues of penguins. They had like a statue of an emperor penguin and a medium-sized penguin and a much smaller penguin, and me and my mom and our sisters took pictures of them. And eventually we came across another little like tide pool area where a bunch of starfish were chilling, and there was different types of starfish that had different types of textures. There was like starfish with coarse, rough, spiny textures, and then there was other starfish that were much softer and more like fluffy. It was just so interesting feeling all the different textures. Then my sister noticed there were some starfish that were above the water, and she was like, those don't look real. So there was a worker there whose job it is to explain everything she knows about the starfish. And I asked about the starfish that were above the water on the rocks, and she said, yeah, those are fake starfish. So it was good to have that confirmed, so we weren't like confused about if they were real or not. Now, after that, she told us all about the different information of these different starfish and how if they lose an arm, they can grow another one back, and how there's different species and they all are, it's like so diverse different ecosystems of starfish, and I call them the Roombas of the sea because they keep the sea floors clean and they're like little filters, like to eat the scraps. And yeah, that was pretty much our interaction. We said goodbye, we parted ways, so thank you for the information. And then we went into the building where there was like a lady who was talking about the different sea creatures on that big mural we saw with the big giant pig looking fish earlier, with like families gathering around and watching her talk about it. And it was really cool seeing like that interactive lesson. We were like up on the top balcony just watching down for a little bit before moving along, and we eventually came across different displays. There was one display where it was like, you know, how fish survive in like a constantly moving like tide pool where the water's always going back and forth. That was really cool to see like how the fish were like constantly moving like this over and over again. I mean, I know like that's how the fish normally live in their everyday life, but could you imagine having to live like you're always walking on a treadmill no matter what every single second of your life? Man, I'm glad I'm not a fish. But yeah, after that, we saw these really cool jellyfish. They looked like the jellyfish that you'd see like deep in the deep dark trenches, where they have like colorful like LED lights coming out of them, and they were just so cool to look at. Like I really liked those jellyfish a lot. They looked like ultimate gamer PC setups before gamer PC setups were even a thing. But in this case, these things have been around for as long as living life has been around. So in a way, like the ultimate creator created the original LED light display. So pretty awesome, not gonna lie. And some of them even looked like alien spaceships, which was cool. We even took a picture in front of a jellyfish aquarium, which was cool. I really like looking at the jellyfish. They look like moving explosions. Very nice. Now, eventually, we just kept on moving until we came across what looked to be a rainforest-like location where there was little itty-bitty frogs everywhere. And we took lots of pictures of those as well, and along with a lot of pictures of various different other sea animals, which was a lot of fun. Now, the last thing we saw, two last things, one was a school of zebrafish, and the other one was just various other fish, which with a Jimmy Durandi fish, which basically are fish that have like long pointy noses and like big droopy mouths. They look like cartoon. They kind of look like Charlie from the Smiling Friends. If anyone has ever seen the Smiling Friends, or better yet, the profile of Psychic Pebbles, otherwise known as Zach Hadel's original cartoon profile before he decided to move on from making YouTube animations and work in a professional animation capacity with Smiling Friends. But yeah, it was funny seeing those because the side profiles look exactly like Charlie from Smiling Friends. It was really funny. I even took lots of pictures of them, and it was cool. Eventually, after that, we finally made our way out of the location. My mom suggested a location about that served different versions of clam chowder for our restaurant. It was actually going to be our first meal of the day because we skipped breakfast and lunch and went straight to dinner. I gotta be honest, I think I can survive a whole day with eating just one meal, because I honestly didn't feel hungry at all for the entirety of the day until we finally arrived at dinner. And when we got to this location, which was like a kind of like a snack shack in the middle of like a harbor with like boats and stuff, the atmosphere was really cool. But that's about where all the coolness ended, because the actual location itself was extremely how shall we put, had really poor customer service. We were showed our tables in the corner, and when we were sat down, we waited for like 25 to 30 minutes before eventually we thought, I think they forgot about us. So we waved down one of the workers there who looked really annoyed and dismissive, and we told her that, hey, we've been sitting here for a while, could you please take our orders? She was like, okay, fine. What drinks do you want? And what food would you like? And, in retrospect, I should have realized that having to wait such a long time and then having that attitude from the waiter should have been our sign to just get up and leave. But I mean, we spent so much time there, and we already, like, were sitting in that location. We thought, well, we might as well get something out of this. So we stayed, even though in retrospect, we really should have left. So we made our orders. She got us drinks, waters, and a Diet Coke. And then it took like 49 minutes. And during that time, we were like trying to pass the time by like taking pictures and talking to each other about life and different things. And it was 49 minutes. And then the waitress brought out two dishes that were like, one of them was something that I ordered, which was a chowder burger bowl, which was like a burger that was covered in clam chowder. But the other one was also a clam chowder bowl, which was not what we ordered. We ordered one clam chowder bowl, and my mom and my youngest sister ordered a seafood platter, and my middle sister ordered a fish and chips platter. And so she decided to take the order back, even the one that I actually ordered. And then we had to wait like an additional 10 to 15 to what felt like 20 minutes before eventually we finally got our food. We felt really unwelcomed. We felt like we were discarded, like they didn't want us there. It was a sucky way to have a birthday dinner. Like I feel like I was lucky to be taken out to that nice restaurant the other day by my family friend, because I feel like the service and the way they did things, they even gave me like a birthday brownie at the end of that experience. Like that place, like even though it happened yesterday, made up for today's awful experience. It was like a yin and yang thing. And the food, when we finally got it, it was just not good. The burger tasted like patty tasted like they used a frozen patty that was like heated on like a grill, and like the fried bits of clam that they put on were really thick and like dry and tepid, and the clam chowder was a little too thick for my liking, and the fact that I was drenched the burger just wasn't great either. It was overall just a really disappointing and unfulfilling and sad experience, and just a terrible way to spend a birthday dinner. I mean, the only thing that made any of it like tolerable was spending time with my family, and just the location looked like the inside of Mr. Krabs' house from the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick are trying to paint Mr. Krabs' house. Like those were the two things that I was like, okay, that's kind of fun. But other than that, this was an awful experience. I do not recommend going to this place. In fact, I'm going to call it out by name so I can let anyone who's watching this video know to avoid this location. It's called the Clam. Wait, no, the Chowder Barge. That's what it's called, the Chowder Barge. Avoid this place at all costs. It is really bad. Well, anyways, after our extremely disappointing experience, we left and we drove back home. When we arrived home, my sister brought out the cake with the coffee icing, and she brewed some coffee. And of course, before we arrived home, we stopped by a nearby grocery store where we even greeted our pastor and his wife who was shopping there, because there was like a deal with Thrifty's ice cream. And we picked up the ice cream, got mint chip and cookies and cream, and then we went back into the car, drove back home, and then my sister prepared the cake, the ice cream, and coffee for me. Yeah, we my family and our family friend all sang happy birthday. Oh, and of course I got a call from my sister, my eldest sister, wishing me a happy birthday too. And another funny little story was, during our trip to the aquarium, there was a funny fish that made a funny face that I took a picture of, and I thought it'd be a cute little thing on our family chat in our texts to try to see who could make the best impression of the fish. So took a picture of the fish, and then I sent like all of, and then I asked if everyone could like make their best impression of the fish. Took pictures of each of their faces. We sent them all in the family chat. Then my eldest sister sent a face, our family friend sent a face, and my eldest sister's boyfriend sent a face as well. And overall, we gave the reward to either our family friend or my sister's boyfriend. And it was really funny, and I really liked that. But anywho, we eventually, had the cake ready. It had 7 candles and then a 2 next to it to signify 27. My mom and sisters, our family friend, sang the song to me, and we dug in. Oh yes, and one more thing I almost forgot to mention was my eldest sister also wished me happy birthday through a phone call, which was very awesome of her. I really did appreciate that. It was when we were still at the aquarium looking at a exhibit where they were showing how we can be more conservative with how we use our water in where we live. So that was very nice. But yeah, jumping back forward, we eventually were just having a really interesting conversation. As we were having the conversation, my mom was messing around with our family friend's new motorized scooter with a little like nub that takes you anywhere you want if you move the stick. And I was even filming her doing some silly maneuvers. And then after that, my sister eventually left after we prayed for her and then sang a little song for her. And when she left, decided I would like to watch an episode of the X-Files. My youngest sister decided to join me. We watched this episode and it was really fun. It was the 6th episode of season 1. I think called Shadows was the name, and it was about a woman whose former coworker who died protecting her from any harm that comes her way. And it's because the spirit will not rest until justice is served with her former boss that she is leaving. And during this whole encounter, Agent Scully, and for whatever reason, I always forget the name of the male character. It's very odd. I know Scully because that's such a weird, unique, interesting name, but the male character starts with an M, I think, but for some reason it's not sticking in my head. Don't know why. But yeah, they are trying to investigate this issue and see what's going on. And it's really interesting. I thought the funniest thing about it was like the guy who believes, the male main character, walks up and the ghost encounter with the woman is happening, and like there's a thief who breaks into her house and like he's being hung up on the wall with like by the ghost in midair before being dropped down, which I thought was a really impressive effect. And it's really cool. And then when Scully comes in, she misses the part where the guy was hanging in the air, midair, and she just thinks like, the lady did it in some strange way. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Not with the fact that like the believer saw the evidence, whereas the non-believer didn't see the evidence because she just missed it. But yeah, this was a really good episode. I really liked the whole idea of like a spirit like not resting until like justice was served. I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, just the whole duality between the believer and non-believer of the show is a lot of fun to witness. After we were done watching the episode, I decided to have my closing routine, where I did 15 minutes of line work with a picture I took of our family sitting together, where I was like on the floor taking a wide frame picture. I cast the image on the TV so I could draw it on my drawing pad. Oh. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Pretty awesome. Yeah. So yeah, if you notice, like my legs are at the bottom of the frame. So yeah, that was me taking the picture. And then after I drew that, there was a picture that I used Rock AI video generator to make move of a fish, just a frame. I asked my sister what song would he sing, and she said, "I'm a Goofy Goober Rock," so I made the fish sing that in a 6-second clip. It was pretty funny, but I had to edit it so the audio perfectly lined up with what the fish was saying. Pretty cool. Then I took my vitamins while my sister was loading the dishwasher. Sorry for the brief jump and change in angle. My phone's battery died, and so this is me finishing the recording. So, yes, I said goodnight to my sister and I love her. She said goodnight too, and that she's glad she's part of my life, and I'm glad that I'm part of her life. And then after that, I went into my room and I recorded this video. And that's pretty much the day. So, yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have an excellent time after this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye, and take care.